Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
Uh, Thanks a lot, Rishad, for the wonderful session. It was really insightful. And thank you, everyone for joining in on a Saturday evening. Right, this is really good. I'll be sharing my screen. Is it visible?
yes,
Awesome. So this will be the agenda. We'll be talking about few live success stories, few examples, few brands who have proved that data is not the future, but they have been leveraging data day in day out. Right? What is data-driven product management? Why is it critical for every org, every product manager? How is it done? What are the ways to do it? Of course, analytics. Any data-driven product management cannot go without analytics. Some part of it is already covered. It was already covered in the research session. We would like to go slightly deep into it, and the skill sets required. Right? What do we need to go there? Right? The list will not be exhaustive, right? But some soft skills along with some technical, which will help you transition from early PM to a data-driven PM. Right? To start with, uh, I'll be covering two brands, right? First will be Google, right? And I'll be referring to Google AdWords specifically. I'm sure all of us must have seen Google ads whenever we search something. We have used Google extensively, right? So just to tell you a small story, this product, right, Google AdWords, it was almost getting shelved, right? The founders were convinced, but the Google sales team was not very well convinced because they were scared that this might eat away their job if you try to place ads automated fashion without selling the digital property which we refer, right? It was almost getting shelled. And then the product manager, right, Jane was the product manager. She was, although she was working as a part-time PM back then, but accidentally she discovered she had to convince everyone, and that's how it landed. That she had to meet engineers, she had to meet Google sales team, she had to talk to different stakeholders to ensure that how is it different from the ads which are placed at the top when you search something, right? So Google AdSense or AdWords, you might have seen ads on the right side, whereas the sales ads, they come at the top. Now, this product, why are we talking about this product is because this is mainly responsible for around 85% of Google's revenue today, right? Any guesses on the revenue we're talking about? Anyone? Wild guess? The product which was almost getting shelved today generates around $147 billion. It's not million, it's $1 billion, right? Now, what is so special about it, right? So instead of determining the ad placement solely based on the price, what Google did was they used a formula that multiplied the price paid per impression, right, with the ads performance. So even though some brands might be paying very high price, but if people are not clicking, then the ad subsequently goes down. I think the same algorithm they use in the search results as well. Now, this brought up the relevant ads, which again brought traffic. This brought relevancy, and this made Google more credible because they were showing the right ads, which was relevant to the customer, right? Which was not just not the brand which was just paying the highest, right? This is a very simple example of how AdWords product manager leverage data to understand what works, what doesn't, right? Now, this, of course, clearly differentiated between the sales team and ensured quality search results, right? Not just the ads which paid the highest. All right, moving on. Next example is, again, I'm sure everybody has used, almost at least most of us have used Facebook, right? After Google, I think this is the only company which has the highest amount of data, our data, uh, right from photos to locations to how do we look, it tags us, what do we like, what we do not, right? Our friend circles, places we have been, right? uh, likes, dislikes I've covered, right? So what is so special about Facebook? How much data it generates, right? Since we're talking about data, right? every 60 seconds it talks about it generates around 136,000 photos, right? It has 510k comments and 293k status updates, right? Every 60 seconds. Now every 60 seconds we talk about gazillion of data being uploaded, people sharing photos, videos, check-ins, right, and whatnot, right? So what does it do, right? Now this particular product, right, Facebook, it tracks it determines user behaviors. How does it do it, right? Mainly I'll divide into three parts. One is it tracks cookies, right? So whenever you're logged into Facebook, it you are enabling Facebook to capture what are you doing parallelly, right? Whether you're browsing, whether you're or doing XYZ, you are searching for something, you're planning a holiday. You might have seen also, right? You have suppose you've logged into Facebook, or you have even closed the browser. But what happens is if you try to search something on Make My Trip or Google, the next time when you go back to Facebook, you might see all the ads, right, on your wall, right? That's what it does. It tracks your likes, dislikes, your behavior, right? Now, a recent study conducted by researchers say the Facebook has so much of data. Researchers at Cambridge University, sorry, it generates so much of data. It has so much of your data that your likes can actually predict your sexual orientation, your satisfaction with life, intelligence, emotional stability, religion, gender, and whatnot. Can you believe that? Right, every time there is some event, Facebook changes its avatar, it brings new photo frames, and then it predicts, all right, it notices who all are using what, and then it stores, right? And it stores indefinitely for now. Like Rishit mentioned, the storing of data has exponentially gone down, right? You might have seen your 10-year memories, 5-year memories. How do you think Facebook is bringing and storing all of it, right? Facial recognition, of course, you might have seen their image processing. Every time you upload a photo, it tries to tag it itself, right? You don't have to tag people. That's how you tell Facebook where you are going, where are you currently. You share the location, what do you like, what do you not, what you don't, right? So this is a very simple, and of course, right, it evolves basis your likes, dislikes, people's post you like, you end up seeing their post time and again, right? Suppose you have 1,000 friends, you do not see updates from 1,000 people. It's what you like, this is your interest, it customizes. And same thing happens with Google also, right? What do you search, right, in Google search engine, or say what you have searched in the past, or present, you see the relevant ad, right? It it tracks the user behavior, and so it shows the relevant ad. And same thing, I think most of the Google products, right? Google News, if you sign in and you view Google News, if you search about certain topic, it ensures that topic is added to your interest. Every time there is a news, that word is tagged somewhere. It's 8 o'clock. That word is tagged somewhere. It tells you, all right, this is a relevant news. That's how it personalizes, right, your experience basis data, right? Moving on. So what is data driven product management, right? It is nothing but making decisions based on real world information, right? Very simple, right? It helps understanding the data, of course. It helps you uncover the right insights and ultimately build the right product, right? I'll keep the definition very simple. I'll not spend too much time on the theory part, right? But I hope you understand, right? Because data driven product management, from the name itself, it's pretty clear. You are building a data backed things, data backed. Whatever you're building for the customer, for the business, right? It has to be data backed. Right? Why is it important? Right? For every PM, there is a fundamental question: what to build, right? Every day in, day out, you have a team of engineers, analysts, data scientists, and designers, right? What to build. As a PM, it's very important for you to prioritize, to build basis data, right? There are ways and measures to capture data for basis your use case, whether you are doing funnel optimization, whether you are building something for user acquisition, whether you are trying to enhance current users experience, or you are building a new feature for onboarding or checkout, right? Basis your journey, it's very critical. Any change you do, any feature you roll out, right, and you have to have certain data backing in the process, right? So typically, why is it important, where is it used? Informed, you can take informed product decisions, right? You want to enhance user experience, you want to influence without authority. This is very important, guys, because uh, every now and then we might hear entry that product manager is the CEO of the product. Now the nuance is that as a CEO, you have all the authority in the world. As a product manager, you do not, right? You have a team of engineers who do not report to you. You have a team of designers. Again, they do not report to you because they're reporting to their vertical heads, respectively, all of them, right? But you have to come as a single pod and deliver. Now, if you do not have any uh, influence over them, you are practically not having a very fruitful relationship, which is futile for your product, right? You have to go hand in hand. Another important skill is, and of course, data helps, right? Once you have the data, it's very easy to convince people. Another important skill for a rockstar PM is how you tell stories, right? You have to be a very good storyteller, because as a PM, you will be speaking to business, you will be speaking to designers, you will be speaking to engineers. You are you are master of. Parik, you want to say something? Okay. So as a PM, right, you're master of none, because there's a business team who knows business better than you do. There is an engineering team who know better uh, than what you do, but what you know, sorry, right? There's a designer, the team, of course, they have specialized skills. As a product manager, you just master the process of building product, right? You do not have a specialized skill. Today, you might have seen, right, a product manager working in a specific industry, specific company, can move around in different industry or company altogether, right? They do not have to be specialized already. Product manager for a pharma industry cannot go to a telecom industry or vice versa, right? If they both are working on the tech side of the world, tech side of the products, right, it's not very difficult. Now, these are some of the skills which are very critical for a good PM, right? Next is for prioritizing tasks and features, right? You have to have certain decision making backed by data. How do you prioritize your tasks and features in your user journey? Now, what will this lead to? The outcome will be, of course, successful product launches, happier customers, and profitable businesses. We always keep customers at the center. We read, right, customers at the center. But it's equally important that anything you build, it aligns with the larger strategy of the org, and it generates enough business value. Otherwise, it's very difficult for businesses to sustain for a longer period of time, right? So happier customers and everything is fine, but the business value has to be there in the journey, in your value mapping, right? Moving on. Now, how is it done? Right, data driven, because from day zero, when you start building your product, of course, you do not know anything, right? You do not know how user will behave, right? You start with small experiments, right? You start with hypothesis. This is a very standard way of writing hypothesis, right? We believe that this particular capability will result in customer, whatever your goal is, right? And your success metric, what will be the measurable signal? Say, for example, when Facebook started, right, initially back in 2013, the North Star metric was that every single person has to have 7 friends in 10 days, right? Initially, this was their North Star metric for a very short period of time. That's when they knew, because uh, if every person goes on to have 7 other friends, we're talking about, a few days only, we're talking about 1 billion people. It is an exponential growth. Similarly, Dropbox, when they started, their North Star metric was every person, one folder, one file per device. Right. This was their North Star metric. So that was the measurable signal they had, that for this particular capability will lead to so and so, and this is how will we measure that it has succeeded. Right? This was the North Star metric. Right. So to summarize, it is you build something, you measure, you learn, and iterate. It's a very simple diagram. There's some idea. How does the idea come? You see new trends, you do market research, you see what competitors are doing, you do your own analytics, you build something, right? You build the product, you measure the behavior, measure how users are behaving, whether they are able to use it effectively or not, or they're dropping, what has changed basis your last change or transition in the app or in the product, right? You learn and you again iterate, right? This is a very simple example of how things are done, right? Guys, I'm not stopping for questions like I think Rishit has already mentioned. I would like to follow the same pattern. We'll take questions basis whenever you raise your hands, right? Or we'll take questions in the end. All right. Moving on. This is a very important part of data driven product management, right? We're talking about the analytics. There are three key areas where we talk about the analytics for data driven product managers. One is the adoption, one is engagement and retention, right? Adoption, name is giving it away. It focuses on the new usage. Whenever you launch a new product or a new feature, uh, how much of it is being used, right, by existing or new users basis it is existing feature or a new feature, right? Engagement, it of course talks about measurement of involvement of users with the product, right? How many they use it. You onboard something is fine, right? You onboard a user is fine, it's just one part of it, but how are they using your product is very critical for the business, right? And for you also. Another is retention, right? How many users are returning to the product, they whether they are just using it for the single time, they like, dislike, they move on, they came for trial, what is the reason, right? This is a very important metric for your customer lifetime value. Of course, if you have a high retention, you will have high gross revenue, right? Your MRR will of course be on the high side, because cost of acquisition, we need to understand, in business is always higher than maintaining your existing customer base. This is very critical. Moving on, we'll deep dive into adoption, right? Adoption is adoption is, there's a 2 by 2 matrix for existing features, existing users. But we say if it is for existing users and features, it is engagement. If it is for new users, there's some existing feature, we call it external adoption, right? External adoption is nothing but when there is a new user is coming to our product or platform and is trying to use something, some existing feature. And if an existing user is trying to use a new feature, it is internal adoption. A new user, new feature is external adoption, right? Any questions so far? I'll take it as a no. Moving on. What is adoption rate, right? Adoption rate is nothing but, to simply put, percentage of first time users, right? Time to first action is a mean time for new users to try a new feature or new product, right? How much time they are taking to try a new feature, right? Whether your new feature is discoverable, do they know, something new has come up, is there a nudge towards the new feature, or are they finding it too complex, right? And last part is efficiency. It is the insight into why adoption of a new product or feature is delayed, if it is, right? How complex or easy it is for any person, new or existing, to use your new feature, right? These are the three levers which help you deep dive into adoption, right? Yes, Takir.
Hi, I have a question that how do you approach a scenario where your user base is segmented into different niche, and each of these are quite, you know, different from each other in terms of their patterns, user behavior, and their demographic to begin with. So how do you approach different segments, and sort of how do you make a single product for a multiple types of mm, customers, users?
So Takir, we always start product building by identifying the problem space, right? At the outset, right? We might not be building, or my product might not be catering to all the segment of users, right? Say for example, Uber, Ola, right? If I already have cars with me, I might not be very extensive user of the product, right? Your product building or the product conception or hypothesis, the very first principle is you define the problem you're trying to solve, right? Then you define the persona, that who can be your probable customers. This is what you will solve for, and this is how you will solve, right? Say for example, Uber, when when they started, they had limited, what do you call, limited pool of cars. They did not have this segment from day zero. This is my luxury segment, this is my sedan segment. They started with hatchback and mini, right? I might be taking mixing Ola and Uber, right? And that's how you evolve. So you solve, you define the problem statement, you define your problem space, you scope your problem, that this will be something I'll be solving, right? This will be my user base. This is how they will look like. This will be the persona, and this is how I will try to approach. And as you go on, right, basis you get the data, how people are using your product, how what is missing, what is not. You take feedback. You, like I said, right, you do a competitor study, and that's how you build a roadmap. You might not be solving for all the segment of the customers. You can take any example, right? Say cred, right? Cred is when they started, the underlying problem they were solving. Now of course, it has expanded. The underlying problem they were solving was to ensure that people are paying their credit card bills on time, right? It was more of an aggregator. It shows all your credit cards. It tells you, this is your due date. It tells your reward points. And when they started, right, now of course, they have expanded basis user behavior, and taking qualitative feedback, speaking to customers, what is missing, and there's a roadmap in place. But to answer to your question, you might not be building at all. That's a strategic call. Cool. Moving on. For engagement, you check active users, your daily active users, weekly and monthly active users, your usage frequency, recency. Recency and frequency can be used for simple segmentation of customers, right? To send out marketing promotions, to send out some sort of campaigns, right? Basis different campaigns. You might want to send them some sort of subscription, uh, and so on and so forth, right? Frequency and recency. Depth of use, what all features customers are using. It's very important for us to understand how people are engaging, how our users are engaging with the product, because you really do not want to spend your time and resources to complicate something which is already solving people's problem, right? And the time spent is nothing but what is the average time people are spending to do a certain activity, right? If the time spent is beyond a certain amount, then of course there is some problem. People are not able to do that particular activity because they feel it's complex, or the steps to perform that particular activity are more than they should be, right? So these are the metrics which you track in engagement. Yes, Sakir, you raised your hand.
No, I didn't. I don't think so.
Okay, it's coming time and again. No worries. Moving on. Uh, on the retention piece, right? There are two pieces in retention. One is the retention curve and cohort analysis, right? Retention curve is nothing but it helps you monitor your retention over a period of time. It's a plot between the number of users and the time period, right? Let's say day zero or month zero, you had 100 users, and how they what are the number of users in month six, right? What was your graph? How many people actually retained who joined in, say, January, right? In June, what is the percentage of people who are left on your platform or on your product, right? Second part is the cohort analysis, right? Cohort analysis is nothing but I am sure you guys understand cohort. It's a group of people with similar user behavior, right? Now, sometimes it is useful to find out how user retention relates to a specific cohort, right? Very simple example of very simple way to bring cohort is maybe a segment of people who joined in a particular month, or users with similar depth of use, right? Maybe some people joined in the month of Jan, Feb, March. You might want to segment them accordingly, or people who use feature X, Y, Z and PQR, you might want to club them separately, right? These are the metrics which you use in retention, and you analyze that how is your retention and what all you need to improve, right? Moving on, the skill sets required. Again, like I said, the list is not exhaustive, but these are very critical skills. For being a data-driven product manager, you need to have basic understanding of SQL, right? Because you reduce the turnaround time, you reduce the dependency on your product analyst and data analyst, right? You know enough about the data to ask the right questions, right? This might sound very simple, but at times we just take this for granted, right? We do not get too much into data, and we are so focused on, building our roadmap, building the next set of features, right? What competitor has built, but it's very critical to understand the data so that you ask the right questions from business stakeholders, from customers. You gauge user behavior, right? Now, since you're talking about data-driven side of the world, right, you should know how to work with data scientists, data engineers, designers, and analytics, right? Data scientists and data engineers, of course, you need to have one-on-one sessions, one-on-one, knowledge base on how they work. Rishad also mentioned there are certain key concepts, very generic concepts. You might not need to master all of them, but a basic understanding so that you can at least have a decent conversation or a depth conversation in your sprint, in your catch-ups, and you have respect for each other's work. Nikhil, you have raised your hand. Please go on.
Yes, Ishan. So yeah, I wanted to ask that. Yeah, I got it that data product manager should know about basic SQL. So you had also written that Python also. So how much of, if yes, and then how much of a Python does a data product manager should need to know? Because I understood, and I am working in analytics. And the product manager working with me works on data products. He also knows, understands basically. He don't know SQL, but he basically understands that, okay, what are the databases, what is the architecture and things like that. But yeah, so my question is, yeah, how much of
See,
a
as a PM, you might not be expected to master how database is, how the data is being stored, or how what is the architecture of this particular database, or you might not be asked to write stored procedures, right? Very simple select statements to gather insights, right? You did something, but you might want to and you might want to look at the trends, look at the patterns of certain things, right? Say, for example, you launched a feature last week, and a simple query would be that people who landed on this specific page, on this previous page, or who did this activity previously and in last 1 week, right? You should not be dependent for such simple queries on your product analyst or data analyst for that matter.
okay, so that's about the SQL. So this also explains about the Python part.
Yes.
Okay.
Mainly you would be just gathering the insights, right? To understand what was the trend, what has been the trend after your last launch or last change, or if you're running some experiments or maybe testing, and you would want to gather some results, you should be able to do it without too much dependency on your product analyst.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Ishant. Yeah.
No problem. Right. Knowing how to present and democratize data. Democratizing data is very critical, right? Your data should be as close as possible to the business, because that's where it adds most of the value. And roadmap prioritization has to be based on data. I think this I covered in the beginning as well. That when you build your roadmap, it has to be data backed. Your decisions, your product decisions have to have certain data backing. Of course, there will be different elements. Maybe some competitor has launched something, or there's a certain break, certain change in the trend. People are looking for something. There's some external factor which is beyond your control, like COVID happened, right? Or something else might happen. I don't know. I hope it's not, it doesn't, but right, your prioritization has to have your purely data backing, right? And for prioritization also, there are different models. I'd not like to go in details in the interest of time, right? But there are different models on how to prioritize data. There are certain data levers which help you prioritize your backlog and just build your roadmap, right? That's it from my side.